Hi there, this is Skip with Maine Patriots on Facebook, facebook.com/Maine Patriot, no S. Recently on the Maine Patriot page, I had invited Libertarian Richard Light, who is the candidate for governor of the state of Maine, to answer some questions so that people can get to know him a little bit better. This all stemmed from a kind of a vocal argument between me and Richard over some other points, but we managed to put our differences aside, and I want to make sure that we're fair and allowing all the candidates to tell us what they're all about. So these are the it's been on the Facebook page for a while, but I figured I'd start this channel, give you some more information. So this was the interview on September 12th, and I had asked Richard Light, how long have you been a resident of Maine? He replied, I was born at St. Mary's in Lewiston. Other than maybe 8 years, 4 in the service, I've always lived in Maine. This is my home. I then asked him, what is your opinion of the current state of our state? He replies, my opinion of the state of our state is that freedoms and individual rights are being crushed to fit the mold of a brave new future where we are all poorer and all more subservient to the wills of those in power. Our economy works for those that work for the state and a few other well-to-do professions, but by and large we are not doing so well. Maine has a huge population of retirees and their economy is not getting better. The value of the dollar keeps dropping and taxes are always headed up. The faction of tax and spend and big government proponents that has been driving our state into debt and federal handouts has an endless list of new and expansive government rules, laws, regulation, and enforcers. So you can tell where this guy's coming from. The continued growth in government spending and power is destroying any solvency for the future of our state outside of being a federal welfare state. We deserve better. Maine suffers from a top-down, trickle-down communism approach to government. Ushering in a new era for Maine means promoting math, promoting civics, and standing for what actually is right, not what sounds right. We need more job growth, and that requires getting the government out of the way, not more involved. We have a growing population of homelessness and hunger, and this is solved through people, not government. We are not attracting younger people into the Maine economy, and this all has to do with the governmental restrictions on people being able to work. Literally, government is the reason our economy cannot grow. Every issue government tries to solve costs us taxes and generational debt, and has accomplished solving nothing. Government does not solve issues, it makes them. Third question I asked him, how do you feel about the current tax code in our country? He says, taxes are an easy stance for me. Income tax is literal slavery. Working and having your wealth stolen from your labor to give to someone else is slavery, actual and literal. He says, this is not a metaphor, this is the definition. Sales tax is a local issue and should only be a local issue. If a town loves sales tax, then go ahead. The state should have no business forcing consumers, to pay for living or for their personal choices. Besides, the greed is the simple economics. Only our bordering state in the U.S. has zero sales tax. Why drive through New Hampshire to see our trees when people can just stay in New Hampshire and save money on every purchase? And further, the real issue of sales tax is in controlling markets. Sales taxes means the state needs to have a lot of your products, has a list of your products, your sales activity, and thus is restricting markets. A better economy is as simple as trade, barter, and cryptocurrency. We should never be a criminal for wanting to grow a tomato in our backyard and sell it from the front porch. Property tax is the only justifiable tax, as we have the power to affect how that is spent. Local matters and only property tax is able to be defended and condemned by the people who pay the tax. However, if we continue to fund education and other state spending at the community level, we never really have power over our local budget. Right now, we're being robbed by the state to pay for unreal and ridiculous costs. Removing the state's power to force money from towns is the first step in implementing a realistic tax system for Mainers. I then asked him, what should we be doing as a state keep our residents from leaving for better jobs and more money? He replies, if the state didn't take all the money from the people might actually have some. I have an aggressive jobs plan for Maine, he says. The plan includes, but is not limited to, removing educational costs for service portions of the educational requirements for a degree by rewarding students with a free internship at our Maine state institutions. Maine would save around 25% of the operating costs for our state while offering students with a 25 to 50% cost reduction for a degree. Our taxes would go down, our services would be met, and we would be highly attractive to potential students. Further, reducing the roadblocks to a middle wage job needs to happen. Licensure is out of control and it inhibits anyone who wants a middle wage job. If we want people to be able to work, we should never be telling them no. The state would be better to help people get jobs than restrict them from getting jobs if they need to be involved at all. Lastly is to reduce operating costs for businesses. With the amount of regulations and licensure needs for new businesses to compete with corporations, new businesses can't begin to grow. This needs to change. Get government out of the business of inhibiting growth. It's that simple. The fifth question I asked was Antifa, Patriots or terror group? And this is what I ask a lot of people, and you'd be surprised some of the answers I get. So anyway, Antifa, Patriots or terror group? He says, to some they are patriots. To me, they are people in mass who not only threaten violence, but perform it. Their goal is to scare and harm Americans whom they deem as oppressive. Identity politics has given us segregation and violence, and over the last decade, my generation went from seeing people as people to seeing people for their physical traits and personal choices. If someone brings violence to you, self-defense is always justified, while donning a mask and looking to bring violence is terrorism. Okay? Number 6, should Maine have legalized marijuana? Why or why not? This is a hot topic. He replies, no, Maine should deschedule marijuana. It is a plant, smoking is a personal choice, and the drug war over this has given us more government authority, overreach, and taxation. I could go on about this, but I think by now you get where I am coming from. People can suffer their own consequences for personal choices, and asking government to be the moral authority is getting us deeper into centralized authority. Number 7, what is your stance on the Second Amendment? Self-defense, he says, is always justified, always. If you hate guns, invent the next equalizer. Number 8, tell us something about yourself that we can't Google, and I kind of got a chuckle out of this. He says, I am nicer in real life than on Facebook. Richard, I certainly hope. Number 9, what are your thoughts on the current immigration status? He says, I am putting together a documentary on immigration. Please stay tuned for this topic. I try to avoid speaking or writing on topics of which I am uninformed, and since I am of Irish descent, my family is not freshly aware of the process. What I can assure is that I do not stand with forcing welfare on immigrants. That needs to stop. Not sure what he means by forcing welfare on immigrants, but I guess that's another question that we can ask him later. Number 10, would you call yourself a politician or an activist? He says, I have never been a politician. I am sometimes an activist when asked to speak on others' behalf. I am a dog in a corner. The system is aggressive and abusive, and I am fed up. The only way out that I can see is for someone to step up and fight the machine, and since I can't expect someone to do something for me, I am standing up. And I can attest that, yes, he is a dog in a corner. Number 11, what is the number one issue that will set your campaign apart from others in the race? Richard replies, I am an advocate for freedom, not partial freedom, not pay to play, not cronyism, not corporate welfare, not my team, your team, not economic and social repression, not partial freedom. The last question, I says, what is your overall opinion of the job President Trump is doing? He replies, I have no position on the president. I stand against the federal government's overreach in every way. And there you go. That is Libertarian Gubernatorial candidate Richard Light answering questions that I posed to him on the 12th regarding his candidacy. Feel free to go to facebook.com/Maine Patriot and weigh in on this. It's still, actually I believe it's at the top of the page still. Next up, we will be having Mary Mayhew. I'm going to be posing pretty much the same questions to her, I think. Maybe a few different ones. If you have questions that you'd like to ask her, go ahead and leave a comment here at the bottom, or go onto the Facebook page and get in touch with me that way. And we'll see what happens. So anyway, thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this. Share it with your friends. We'll have more coming up. I believe Garrett Mason will be doing an interview as well. Just want to get the information out there, and let's see if we can make Maine great again. Thanks for watching.